Okay, Shreya, since this is your first interview,
Yes,
you'll
ma'am.
start with your introduction.
Okay, so my name is Shreya and I'm 20 years old. I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's in applied psychology honors from the University of Delhi. I was born in Lucknow, but I was brought up in Ghaziabad, and hence I've completed my schooling from Ghaziabad itself from a school called Indrapuram Public School. And in the year 2021, my dad was transferred, which is where we shifted back to Lucknow. And so currently I reside in Lucknow. During my school days, I used to participate in intra-school competitions of debating as well as street plays. I like to read, although it's mostly fiction, and I also like to write sometimes. Um, I'm currently writing a research paper along with two of my batchmates from my undergrad. The research paper is basically about the level of job satisfaction, work-life balance, and motivation, and the changes that has occurred in them due to the remote working post-pandemic. So the research is basically a qualitative one, and it is still undergoing. Although I did present my first draft in a national psychology conference that was held at B.R. Ambedkar College, which comes in the University of Delhi itself.
Okay. So what do you write apart from research paper?
I mean, when I say write, it's not really writing about, writing articles or journals, basically writing about things that goes into my mind. It's a way of catharsis, a way of therapeutic, to feel cathartic and therapeutic for my own self. So when I say writing, it means journaling at night and writing certain proses that basically talks about things that I cannot talk about, via speaking. So I basically write that down. So it's basically for me and not in general to publicize or anything. I'm not capitalizing on my writing. It's just writing that I
Okay,
do.
I got the point.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, how the interest how you got interested in psychology? So was it my question? The complete question is, was it before you took the psychology as a subject, or it actually started after you took psychology as a subject in your plus two or graduation?
Okay, so when I opted for my after 10th, we were given a choice of streams. During that time, I opted for psychology because it felt something new. So the fact that it was new also made me feel that it might be interesting. So it was not like I have studied psychology before it came into my curriculum. I was inclined towards it because I thought it could be interesting, and then I came to the discipline. I started studying it during my school days, and I realized that it is something that I do find interesting because psychology basically talks about human behavior, and the things that you read, you're able to see them around your world. So that sort of relatability made me feel more inclined towards the subject, which is why I decided to pursue it for my higher education, and I decided to go for applied psychology honors for my bachelor's. And ever since the years that I've spent with the discipline, I've always found it very interesting, which is why I've never felt that I need to shift my discipline. With every progressing year, with every progressing semester, I've always found the subject interesting, which is why I still want to continue in the field, and also able to find a job that could facilitate further exploration into the field, because it you study psychology, it not just gives you insight about the things that are happening outside of the world, because you're able to see the human behavior that is happening outside of the world. You're also able to explore about your own self, and the fact that there is an interconnectivity between the world and you sort of makes the field even more interesting and even more practical oriented as well. So that is, I'm interested in the field, and I want to take it up for my higher education.
Okay. So, what are your career goals with this subject? Like further after TISS, and you can also tell what you will be doing at TISS, and then what ahead.
Okay, sir. So basically, I want to come into TISS because it is one of the most prestigious institutes of our nation. Probably one of the only institutes that focuses on social sciences. That is the reason why I'm aiming for TISS. And there's also one more aspect that the curriculum focuses on, as building the theoretical framework as well as the ability to apply all of those theoretical and knowledgeable things that were taught in.
But Shreya, I did not ask this. मतलब मैंने तो ये बोला कि what are your learning goal and what do you want to do ahead? So why are you praising TISS, or it's not about praising TISS? Why are you talking about TISS as an institution, or the credibility of TISS? So it's like the next learning goals of the next 2 years
Mhm.
and career goals after that.
Okay, so
What
my
was the
career
question?
Okay, so my career goal after pursuing masters in TISS is to be equipped with all the things that are required for a practical to be able to practice in as a professional. I wish to continue in the field of counseling after my masters in the particular field. I wish to practice as a counselor, and after gaining certain amount of experience in the field, I wish to, as a long term goal, work as a lecturer in a university. And I also wish to conduct researches during my years in the masters as well as afterwards. But my long term goal would be to gain enough experience in the field and then hence work as a lecturer in a university.
Okay. So you were talking about research. So can you tell me what are the research which is going on in the field of psychology in India? Matlab some major research or some major breakthrough that is going to be happen, or what is there in research for Indian
Mhm.
context?
So I'm sorry, I'm not really aware of that. But I do know that peace psychology is a relatively new field which is still being researched about, and it is a field and it is a discipline, discipline selective elective that we studied during my
Which psychology? I did not get you.
the peace psychology.
Peace psychology.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, it is still undergoing, and it's a relatively new field of psychology that we're taught. So it is a field that it stems from social psychology and is still being undergoing research, and a lot of theories, and as well as the ability to apply those theories in the practical world is still undergoing research and still, is
But,
being worked.
but there must be other fields also where psychology is needed, but we are not exploring it.
Yes,
So
sir.
can you tell me few of the fields where psychology can be very instrumental, but
Mhm.
people haven't explored yet?
I mean, there is industrial and organizational psychology. It is
But
not
but uh, but in industrial and organizational psychology, we have been exploring the application of psychology since the start. So the initial organizational experts were from psychology discipline only.
yeah.
So what I was asking that, tell me about some fields or identify some of the area where psychology could have been a very
Mhm.
important component or instrumental in the success of that area, but we did not explore. You can take
Marketing.
some time, and marketing also. We have been exploring psychology for marketing purposes since
Mhm.
many years. Like it's like 100 year back we have started learning that how people buying, identifying the buying behavior and studying the buying behavior of customer and consumer behavior.
Mhm.
So it has been explored well.
So it has been explored well, but is the theories being applied well? That is where the
Yes,
question.
yes, yes, yes. We have been applying it in a very detailed manner. So you might not be aware, but the industries these days were while launching any product, for the color combination, for the taglines, for the
Mhm.
design, everywhere psychology is being used.
Mhm. Okay. So we can in for environmental and climate change also psychology can be used because you can understand. I mean, if you want to bring about a change has to happen from top down as well as from bottom up approaches. Decisions can be made at the most highermost level, but those decisions are seldom the effects of those decisions are seldom experienced by the people who work at the very topmost hierarchy of the power dynamics. But at the same time, that change when change needs to happen, it also has to start from the very bottommost approaches, from the very bottommost level of the society. That means our individuals as well, to bring about an integrative approach that can actually lead to further changes in, I can say, environmental, and bring about a change that can sensitize people towards structural changes that need to happen so that we can take care of the environment. I think that can also be a field that can be explored by psychology to bring
So
about.
why just environment? Why not for all the other policies that government is bringing? Like any policy which targets welfare or social
Mhm.
issues. So everywhere psychology can be used.
Yes, I agree.
And the greatest example is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So we have made toilets and we did not work on the psychology of people. So
Mhm.
infrastructural part we take care, but we don't consider the psychological aspect of it, of any policy, and involving in public for any policy, because it can never be successful if people are not responding to it.
Yes, sir.
So the response that we seek can only be gained by understanding their behavior or their psychology. So this could be one of the field,
Yes.
and you might explore in many other area like what? Tell me one more subject where you do find that application of psychology is missing.
So I think parenting is one of the fields. I think it is well explored, and there are therapies that are oriented towards families, towards parenting, but they're not a very much. The awareness is not very much there. There are not a lot of people seeking such therapies. So we can work towards people being able to access these particular therapeutic interventions that can be beneficial for the family structure in our nation and in any nation, to be very honest. But psychology is very cultural oriented. So if I were to say, being able to access parenting, being able to access therapies that focus on conscious parenting can be very much can be a field that could
Okay,
be yeah.
so now tell me, if I'll say not with reference of industrial psychology, okay.
Yes, sir.
If I'll say how psychology can contribute in national economy,
National economy.
but you are not going to tell me about the application of psychology in organizational behavior and other management practice.
Okay. How psychology can be applied towards economic benefits.
Mm.
Hmm. I think so. Psychology can help incentivize entrepreneurial skills in an individual, because I think we can benefit if a person is able to formulate their own plans as well as they're able to formulate new startups. Because startup is something that has been that is being explored in our nation at the moment as well. There are a lot of schemes that are being put forth for the startup. So I think psychology, because there's this tendency of learned helplessness. Failure leads to an individual feeling that they cannot find other solutions to a particular problem. There's a mental set that comes forth when you use a particular strategy to solve a particular problem. You tend to put the same strategy in other fields as well. Psychology can help people diversify their problem solving approaches. It can help them to formulate diversified plans that can be used, hence one approach tends to fail. So I think it can benefit an individual making sure that their startup plan can be more successful. And फिर ऐसे मुझे आ नहीं रहा है to answer the question.
कोई बात नहीं. But you are going good. So tell me, what are the topic or subject in psychology you studied well in your graduation?
So a topic that I studied well, I am interested, other than counseling, I'm also interested in industrial and organizational psychology.
Okay, so what are the recent theory in that field? And tell me about any theory in that field that you have studied.
There are always motivational and leadership theories, but I think they tend to have an overlap with the other management courses as well. So something that has now been recently explored is the importance of emotional intelligence. That basically talks about resilience, that basically talks about hope, having optimism, and it basically talks about how emotional intelligence is also very much important as compared to the other aspects of intelligence. When we talk about intelligence, we tend to focus only on the problem solving aspect. We tend to focus only on the aspects of spatial reasoning, logical reasoning. But the fact that emotional intelligence is also very much an important component of the holistic intelligence of an individual is now being explored, because resilience basically talks about it. Even though you're struck with different obstacles into your path, the ability to strike back, the ability to have that faith that you can figure out another way is also an important aspect in an individual succeeding in their life. The ability to bounce back from grave situations is also an aspect that is being explored. So basically, emotional intelligence is something that is being explored in the field of organization industrial psychology, which is of utmost importance.
Okay, and what are the other subject you did not study well, but not other subjects? Have you did you realize that any of the subject or any of the paper you could not study well, but you should? Like you do have this in mind that you will be studying it later because you could not do it in graduation.
um, it's not like we could not do it in graduation. More than 2 years of my graduation went into the online mode. So a lot of the learning that would have happened in an offline mode is always better than an online mode, because there are a lot of technical issues. There's also, we were all going under a pandemic, so a lot of learning that should have happened at a level could not actually happen. So social psychology is a field that I could not study because a lot of changes were happening, but it is a field that I would want to focus on and would study, because I think social psychology basically has an integrative approach. It focuses on an individual and how an individual's identity is framed in a social context, which is, I think, is of utmost important when we talk about human behavior and mental processes, because it is a very bi-directional influence that happens. An individual makes the society, and as well as the society that we're born in has a very much impact on the way our identity is formed. So I think social psychology is a field that I would like to study more and explore more further.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, uh, so I'll be going away from the topic, and the next question for you: have you seen any work which is highly influenced by psychology, like work of literature or movie or anything, and you find it is coming from psychology only, but like psychology, the writer or the creator has used psychology in a big way to create that.
um, there are a lot of self-help books that I've come across that tend to use psychology in them. Like there's a book called Atomic Habits that I'm currently reading. I'm not through with it, but basically the book focuses on how small habits can lead to a big structural change into the long term. So I think, I mean, it's always questionable how important, how relevant psychology and how uh, in an ethical manner and in an informed manner psychology is used when people are creating these self-help books. That is always under question mark, but sometimes some books are actually good, and there is a lot of literature that can help people to, use certain, basic psychological theories that can be helpful in their day-to-day life. So that book basically talks about how small habits can lead to big changes, and it talks about how you can make sure that a small habit stays for a long time, and it basically focuses on the consistency of habits
Okay,
and
okay.
these.
So the next question for you: how much comfortable are you in quantitative research?
It is a field that I would want to explore further. I've only conducted a qualitative research. I'm not very much familiar with the quantitative methods of the research, but it is something that I would want to explore further.
So you did not study the research method paper well, or
No,
uh,
sir, it was taught well. I just forgot. It was taught well in the first year.
okay. Just give me the theme of that paper. matlab, what was there? If I'll ask that, what was the structure of that paper? What did you learn since the start? You don't have to remember the concepts. You just need to tell the topics that in this way we did learn.
Um, uh, the paper that I'm writing.
No, the paper that you have studied for research method.
Okay, so we were taught in during our first year, we were taught research methodology and data interpretation. So what we basically do is, it is basically a theoretical approach. We're taught all of the statistical tools that we would be used. We're taught how to calculate t-test, z-test, ANOVA, and all of that. And we're also taught about what is a qualitative and quantitative research, the difference between the two. It is basically more of a theoretical paper, where which things like how to solve a particular statistical
चलो I was
query.
not asking in this way. मैं तो टॉपिक के नाम पूछ रहा था कि कैसे कैसे पढ़ते हैं, तो जैसे यू कैन टेल इट लाइक दिस कि पहले हम लोग सेंट्रल टेंडेंसी पढ़ते हैं where we study mean median mode, then we study standard deviation, then we study regression and correlation,
Yes,
है
sir.
ना? These are the basic statistical tool.
Mhm.
And then मतलब इसके बाद भी कुछ कुछ चीजें होती हैं, but we don't study that. मतलब for the research part you don't have to study more than. Then you study the tests,
Yes, sir.
है ना? and
Yes,
and
sir.
and when the test will be applied, when which test will be applied, है ना? Then J test, T test, F test, and chi-square test.
Yes,
and
sir.
then we study application of that. तो ये ऐसे simple तुम्हें बताना था.
पर ये सर मुझे इस पे अगर उन्होंने क्रॉस क्वेश्चन कर लिया कि टी टेस्ट.
नहीं, इसीलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना, इसीलिए I understood that you don't remember everything, so I just to asked you कि what are the, मतलब in what pattern you did study. So see, they say if you know why t test was there, so even if you don't know the formula, it's okay.
ओके.
So just try to know, मतलब अभी भी तुम्हारे पास टाइम है, just try to learn why jet test was used.
तो टी टेस्ट. हाँ, इतना आई कैन आंसर.
So you can just study it also, and then you can say that if you don't know these answers, you can just go through the lectures that I have already posted on YouTube in
ओके
the
सर.
statistics part. Okay,
ओके सर.
so वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा उसको देख लो, 2 ही लेक्चर है, ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा नहीं तुम्हें देखने में, and
ओके
then you
सर.
can answer. And if you have any doubt in those lectures, or if you want to, मतलब उसमें से probably I have not covered the tests part, all the tests in detail,
यस
so
सर.
you can ask me later. Hmm?
ओके सर, बिकॉज ये नहीं पता है एंड आई थिंक दिस इज समथिंग दैट कैन बी आस्क्ड.
They can ask,
बिकॉज आई गेव.
because see the for a batch, like if I'm hiring a 30, I'm a batch of 30 students, so some of the students must be good at mathematics, or some could be good with research, because
यस
we also
सर.
need diversity.
यस
So
सर.
in that regard, if you can actually give them the idea that okay, you don't know well, but you know what is that, so further you can study it.
ओके सर.
Okay.